Alright, today we got some APOC Industries lower links for the 2004 Sequoia. We got both upper and lower links. Since my Sequoia is bones or stock height, when you do what I do and actually off-road it with the low clearance, I have bent at least one of my lower links. And in my quest to look for, well, originally I was actually gonna just build my own, but then I looked online to see what was available, and there was a couple I think maybe one to three companies maybe at most that was making these, and the other one I looked at, I guess they either stopped making them or they're kind of hard to get, and somehow I stumbled across this brand. Never heard of them before, but apparently they make a whole bunch of links for a bunch of Toyotas, and they're super beefy. They are really beefy. So what I did was another member got the same set, and he said when he installed them, they normally come with polyurethanes. See these polyurethanes on both sides. Same thing with the lowers and uppers. They normally come with polyurethane on both ends of the links. He did the test already, saved myself some trouble, said that they don't flex worth the crap, actually less than what the factory did, because the rubber bushings actually flex, polyurethane does not. So what he did was save me the trouble of actually trying to find everything too. He replaced the lower one end of the adjustable side with Jonny Joints. See right there, Jonny Joints. And I think these are, is that the brand? I don't know if that's the brand, but they're Jonny Joints. And they came basically same thread, so it threaded straight in just fine. I added anti-seize on there before I threaded them on. And when I had them side by side, they measured just about the exact same length, so there wasn't going to be any strength issues. Now I gained the flexibility of my links by using these Jonny Joints. Now for the uppers, same thing. Came with the polyurethanes, and I swapped them out with some Heim fittings that threaded in here. Again, anti-seize on the threads. And measured out again almost exactly the same amount of threads, at least thread length. So again, no loss in strength there, but you gain Heim joints. You can see how much more flexible these are. These are fairly cheap, so I don't know how long these are gonna last. I kind of wish I did a little bit more research, but I was already, so much into this already, and figure I'll just run this and see how they go, and see if these hold up or not. If not, I'll have to source another set, because these are fairly cheap. I forgot the exact price. I'll probably do a link for where I got these and where I got the Jonny Joints, and you can order these from their website. I got lucky at the time when I was searching for links. I found this brand, and I was trying to see if there was any coupon codes. Ended up finding that Vivid Racing, I believe, was the website. Was a reseller for them, but for whatever reason, I don't think they updated their pricing. So I got these for $100, and not $100 less than what they're listed on their website. Unfortunately, Vivid Racing has fixed their pricing on there now. So I got lucky, came up on these for $100 or more or less, and that basically kind of paid for the extra add-on on here. I think they normally go for around $400 or so dollars. These things right here were about, I don't know, $30 or $60, and these together was maybe around $100 or so. So if you had to do it, I mean, it does get a little expensive, but I mean, with the limited options there are. And to get the strength of these links, plus you get I believe these are for I haven't looked under there yet, but believe there's mounting points for all the brake lines or whatever it may be under there that goes to these. So that's pretty cool that those are still included in there. I know this is probably serviceable. This, I don't think these are serviceable, but they're so cheap that you can probably just buy replacements pretty easily. Since they're uppers, I don't know if I want to be constantly replacing these, so I'm going to be doing some research and seeing if there are some better units that will last longer. So let's get to the install. All right, I got one side jacked up and it's just barely off the ground. I kind of want to just document where we're at height wise. Looks like from the ground to the center, about 42 inches. So that's what we're gonna use as the baseline and see if these links decrease my travel. All right, got the wheel off and clearly see there's a nice little bow to this. Personally, I wouldn't mind it, as this adds a little more clearance, but it shortens up the length of this and brings your wheel forward, which, I mean, even when after this happened, I had no drivability issues or alignment issues. It still drove straight, and we'll take a look at the other side in a little bit, but I believe the other side is still straight, or it's definitely way straighter than this one. So you can see, still stock shocks, stock springs. You can see the paint that's still on there. There's the upper link right there. Oh, it's actually gonna be fairly easy to get to. So I guess I'll be able to knock all this out tonight. All right, so for me, once I loosened up the bolt off of it, backed it out. These actually have, you can see there's 4 little teeth on here. These actually self-lock once they're tightened down. So when you want to go break these loose, don't loosen it from the nut side. Do it from the actual bolt side, because this is gonna, once this is tightened down, you'll be fighting this. So you don't want to loosen from the nut side, loosen from the bolt. And then from there, you'll just take your impact gun and zap it out. A lot of times it won't like come out all the way. I mean, it's threaded. Oh, I got it on the jack stands to take the load off. And then what you want to do is grab a smaller wrench, put it behind it, and you'll be like pulling or prying back on there while you're zapping it out, and it should just back right out. All right, we got the passenger lower link out. You can see there's the brake line that was threaded here. I just realized there's a weld nut behind here, and there is not one on here. So you'll have to you can reuse the nut or the bolt. You're just going to have to find another nut to bolt your e-brake. I think, yeah, it's the e-brake line back into play. But yeah, you can clearly see nice little bow in here. Unfortunately, I won't be able to use this one to gauge my length because obviously it's been shortened. But from measurements I've gotten from online, I line this one up over here, you can clearly see how much that bend shortened it. Bolt hole doesn't even line up, so it looked like I shortened it by what, almost an inch difference, maybe 3/4 of an inch, due to that little bow. So I'll be adjusting these to the length I got online, which I think they already, actually, you know what, I gotta double check. But yeah, just gotta double check. And then one thing is, I don't know if I want the Zerk fitting pointed up or down. So we'll see. I mean, having it pointed up obviously would be ideal, but well, it may be a little pain to get to grease. So we'll see once I get to the install. Well, it looks like I ran into an issue. So the length eye to eye should be 27 3/16 based on information I got from our page. And when I measured this eye to eye, with it bottomed out already, I'm at 28. So a little shy of an inch taller. And the issue is not with APOC, but it's because I changed to these Jonny joints. If I stack this over and bottom this out with the nut, you can see it's shorter. It can get shorter because this has a nice little beefy casing over it. So now I'm gonna have to compensate. It is gonna extend maybe, I don't know, 3/4 longer. Three, I don't know what the math is, but it's about 3/4 longer. So I'm gonna do the same with the upper. I'm gonna extend it the same amount. That way the rear axle stays, I guess it would just, is that the caster? I believe it's the caster. I mean, the rear is not too big of a deal as long as you get it close. I mean, I ran it with it bent like this, and I didn't even notice any drivability issues, so we're gonna run it. All right, I got one side installed. You can see once you get it in there, there's gonna be a little bit of play side to side. Don't worry about that, because once you tighten this nut up, it's gonna squeeze the metal back together. Now, the rear, you know, you think you would just slide that up and it'll go. It's not gonna fit because this axle is already too far forward, because the other link was bent, so that initially brought this axle forward. At the time I removed everything, that's where it stayed. So, and also on the length of the shaft, I settled on 27 3/16 is what the factory is, since I couldn't shoot for that because of the extra body that's on the Jonny joint. I was able to bottom it out and go for 27 3/4, so not that much of a difference from where it was before. And also another thing is, I forgot, I didn't even put the Zerk fitting back in on here, which I'm probably not going to. I don't know, we'll see. I'm probably gonna pull these and just grease them up with super lube and never touch them again. So a little trick, so back to the problem back here is, we're not gonna get this on, so what we need to do is shift the axle back. By yourself, it's not something easy to do. What I've learned working by myself over the years, the easiest way to move an axle is get yourself a ratchet strap and just find a point where you can hook onto, and then another point in the very back, and all you have to do is tighten this down, and you'll see the axle get pulled back just enough. I might have to grab another different ratchet strap, or at least a bigger one. So put this down so I can get two hands on there. See if I can catch this on video. Alright, so I guess if you're going to do this, make sure you get a ratchet strap with a nice big handle, because you're going to be able to pull on this pretty hard. So let's see if we can capture the axle move a little bit. There it is. Let's get that on video. There it is. You can see the link fits now, and surprisingly, I got it first shot. The bolt hole perfectly lines up. All right, so what we're gonna have to do, I took the lower link back out. We want to pop these bushings back out because they were shipped with no lube on them. Like I said, I'm not going to put a Zerk fitting in there to grease these things. There's a little spot you can see Zerk fitting in there, because well, I guess it would still grease it, because when you put these back together, there's a little gap in between. To get these out, you want to go get a punch. I have a brass punch ideally, and what you want to do is line it up with the center. I have my vise here where it's centered up, so it'll allow it to drop through. Alright, now you got that out, and the brass punch shouldn't have done any damage to these things. It looked like when they put it together, they did a little damage to it. So now that's out, we should be able to pop these off. since I didn't lube them from the start. Might take a little bit of a force. There you go. Just twist them. They look like just I guess they have their own brand. They had them custom branded with their brand on there, so I guess that's pretty cool. They might be custom sizes. They almost look like energy suspension rear leaf spring bushings. All right, now those are free. Let's get those greased up. All right, this is what I've always used. It's called Super Lube. Pretty cheap. You can buy, I think, a whole tub of this for like 10 bucks or something like that. It's just white synthetic grease. So what we're gonna do is you want to lube the inside. You just want a nice little coat, and then also all the way around the outside of it. Slide back together, do the other one. The idea is just polyurethane's really it's basically plastic, I guess. They don't flex much, so they tend to make noise. I'm not too worried about noise. It's a purpose-built truck, so if you're worried about noise, it's probably not the mod for you. So, got a towel here, wipe off some of this grease, soaked in brake cleaner. Turn this around. So before I drop the other one in, there's actually a space in there I want to fill with grease. That way I don't get any water intrusion through that hole. Eventually I might just find, I guess I'm just going to put the Zerk fitting on. That way I don't get any water intrusion. Got that on. Let's drop this bad boy back in. Alright, should be nice and packed in grease now. Any excess, just line it inside. Then we'll take this, do the same thing with this one. That way it goes back on a little easier. Alright. Go get me a brass punch. That way I don't damage the metal. And it doesn't matter where this sits now because we want it bottomed out anyways. Flush it back out, good to go. Don't forget to use a little bit of grease on the outside of this because there will be metal to metal contact here. Anything to help reduce the noise, I guess. And over time, it will probably develop some noise. Just gotta keep up with your greasing of it, and even then, sometimes that still won't fix it. So you just got to deal with it. All right, we got it installed. And like I said earlier, you want to tighten up on the bolt side. If you try doing it from the nut side, it's not gonna happen. Like I said earlier, the factory one had a weld nut on the back side of it, so the bolt went through it. I happen to have a lot of just loose nuts and bolts that threaded this factory bolt perfectly. So instead of, normally this bracket's on this side, but there's like a little lining key, I guess you can say. There isn't a spot on here for that, so I just put it on the other side so it sits flush. Ran the bolt back to the other side because this nut is a nut and washer combo, and it didn't quite clear the tube on the other side. So not a big deal. Wheels won't be anywhere near it, so not a big deal that way. But yeah, you see it's already back and installed. I'm gonna tackle the upper one now. Same thing, just loosen it up, set the length, and grease the polyurethanes. and then we'll be back in business on this side. See, this thing's already beefier already. All right, we got the upper one out. There's the link right here. See how skinny this link is. It's skinnier than my finger. It's crazy. But it's the upper link here. It's had to just disconnect the wheel speed sensor. It's a little clip right there. You can see it hanging right here. Just squeeze it this way and popped it right out. Now for the lower one, I told you to go after the bolt side. Now the upper one gets tricky because the upper links has the teeth. You can see there's teeth right there on the bolt side. So for the upper, you gotta attack the side that has the washer and the nut to take it off. I thought I was struggling trying to get the upper off. I was like, what the heck? I didn't want to go set up my air tool. I got it out now, but had to set it up, and I was like trying to zap it, and I was like, dude, this thing has 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. Could not zap it. So I went to the other side and zapped right off. Once I took it off, realized that the bolt side on the upper has the lock. You can see right there, and it literally makes it impossible. You can see, let me see if I can zoom in. You can see the marks right there. It literally bites in and locks itself in place, and not gonna be able to get it out that way. So yeah, got this out. So we'll set up the upper one and get that installed. For the upper, you can see the size difference here. Had to adjust this pretty far out, and basically I just took the stock bolt, ran it through, that lines it here perfectly. The upper one, I got it in there. That's gonna give me my the length, but I'm going to add maybe a turn or two out to give it a little more length, since the lower one I couldn't set it exactly to stock length, so it's going to be just slightly longer in the rear, which shouldn't be an issue as long as I have them both fairly close. So yeah, so here we are. For me, like I said, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna pop these bushings out and do the same thing, grease these up. Probably not gonna do a video on that. Idiot myself. I put these all together, and I wasn't sure what I was gonna do with the Zerk fittings, so I did not install them, and now I don't know where all the Zerk fittings are for this thing. So for the rear, I found a bolt. Did I put it on this one yet? I have a bolt. I don't know where it went, but I just put a bolt in there. Just after I have it greased up, I'm gonna put a bolt in there to cover it up so I don't get water in there. Same thing with the uppers. I don't know where the Zerks are, so I'm just gonna put a bolt into them. And like I said, I'm probably never gonna grease these once I get the initial grease into them, so I'm not gonna be too worried about that. Yeah, so excited to get this thing in. The only other issue is you can see there's a tab here for the brake line or the wheel speed sensor. Factory or the aftermarket ones, no matter which way I turn these, they're not going to be in line to where this was, so I'm just going to have to just zip tie that wheel speed sensor in place, or I might just leave it. We'll see once I get it installed if that thing is going to be an issue or not. Oh, here it is right here. So there's that bolt right here. I'm going to grab a couple more, and it just happened to be the same thread as that, so we're just going to thread it in. And then bottom it out, and then it'll be capped, sealed, and never have to worry about it again, I guess, until the bushings everywhere. I don't know, we'll replace those at that time. All right, so the little ratchet strap trick for the upper to get it to line up didn't quite work because it didn't want to rotate because this side was still connected. So I got this side jacked up, and the upper link is just removed right now, so that should give me at least a little bit of rope. There it is. You can see it already start dragging back, so, or rotating back. That's exactly what I need. That'll give me a chance to get the other side installed. And there is the wheel speed sensor and the brake line that you got to disconnect. I may reconnect back to the link again, may not. We'll see once I get it all back together. Another thing to note is my links. I have not tightened the adjusters on them yet. You want to do those once it's on ride height. The bolts for the
upper and the lower links, you can fully install those and shoot them on. Since there's no rubber bushings on them, they rotate freely, so it won't tear. Now if you had factory bushings, factory rubber bushings, you always want to tighten those. Same thing with your front, lower control arms, upper control arms, they're all factory rubbers. You always want to tighten up those pivot points when it's on ride height, so on the ground, and after you bounce it a little bit and where it settles, the ride height is where you want to tighten those all down. But since we're swapping it all out for a Heim and Jonny Joints and polyurethanes, they all rotate freely. They're not fixed like these rubber bushings are. So that also will, in my opinion, overall give it a smoother ride as well, because they're not going to be fighting these rubber bushings. Now, the axle's obviously drooped out on this side, on both sides, but this, from the factory, this is where the height is normally. How do I know that? Because this rubber, see how I can't even bring it down? That rubber bushing was tightened at the time that it was at ride height. So you can see how much resistance there is. So if you're off-roading, just even everyday driving, you know, you got your springs and shocks are doing its thing, but it's also fighting this rubber. And like, look at that, takes quite a lot of force to get it down here. So that's another benefit of doing ditching these rubbers. So the noise, if I even get any, it's gonna be worth it in my opinion.
All right, about to put the other driver, or the driver's side upper link on. Still got the driver's side lower link I gotta do. You can see I'm just gonna cap the Zerk fittings right there. They're just capped, and they're ready to go get installed and get this done with. All right, so this is the e-brake cable that normally attaches to the lower link here. I decided I'm going to cut it off. It's actually just like welded together. So I took a cut-off wheel right here, cut it a little bit, and bent it out of the way. I didn't like how tight it was at full droop where it's at, and this thing's never going to come out to where the tire is, so that's not going to be an issue. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to cut it off because I noticed on the inside of my cable, this is a protective sleeve, and the wires inside, it's already took the protective sleeve, it's already cut on the other side because how much I drooped this thing out. Even on stock suspension, it out travels what I guess even how Toyota had it set up. So, and eventually I'm gonna have a longer shock in here and whatnot, so I might as well just do it now and get it over with. All right, got the lower links installed. I cheated and I adjusted or tightened up the nut while it's still in the air. I'm gonna check to make sure this is still straight once it's on the ground. If it is, then we're just gonna leave it. If not, I can adjust it on the ground. Same thing with this one. I already tightened this one up already, making sure this is straight. We'll see once we get this back on the ground. One thing, wheel speed sensor, not gonna be able to clip. I mean, I guess I could if I just unclick this. And let me get the light over here. If I oh, there goes my light. If I unclick this and move this over, I can probably snap this back in here, but I don't think this is going to be an issue having this hanging. The other thing is the brake line here. This is not going to be able to be reattached. Maybe a zip tie from here to here, maybe not. We'll see. Doesn't look like it's going to be an issue just sitting here. So I might just take the brackets off. That way this is not hitting my links. And so that's it. Links are all on. Wasn't too bad, both sides. And we just gotta test drive it and see how it drives. All right, so it looks like I didn't need to readjust them. They are pretty straight. Already haven't test drove it yet. I'm gonna save that for another day. It's late and I want to get inside for dinner. So there they are. Stock suspension Sequoia with massive links, baby. Can't wait to try these things out. All right, little update. I got to drive this the other day. Drives like normal, no noticeable difference. But one thing, since I did have to extend the links because of the new Jonny Joints on the lower, and that, you know, meant I had to lengthened the upper ones evenly, you can see the wheel isn't centered up in the wheel well anymore. Normally this isn't an issue, but I do plan on going up to 35s, and that's going to add, these are around 32s right now, it's going to add about 1.5 inches more tire here, and that might take up the gap here, and then when this wheel travels, you know, it might have clearance issues. I know I'm still gonna have to trim for 35s, but I'm trying to, you know, if I can minimize how much I need to trim. So what I'm gonna do is I probably won't have it included in this video, but what I'm gonna try to do is, you can see this is about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch longer. Actually, that's about how much I extended it. I'm actually gonna take this nut out and bottom this Jonny joint, and that would basically put this back to where it needs to be. I'm gonna do the same with the upper one, reset that back to factory length. Ideally, that's where I rather have it. I mean, the longer, slightly longer wheelbase does, you know, it's like I said, it's not a big problem, but this would probably bug me, just knowing that my wheel is not centered up in the wheel well.